Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of Barra Borough Council. My name is Councillor Kevin Hamilton and I am the Mayor and Chairman of the Council. May I first of all remind you that some of the domestic arrangements is important that all participants conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. Please put your mobile phones on silent. If any member or officer wishes to speak, please raise your hand via the raise hand facility in Zoom. If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone until invited to speak. Even if you're not speaking, you may still be shown on screen, so please remember this while the meeting is being conducted. That you do not interrupt other speakers. If members do lose connection to the meeting, we will adjourn for up to 10 minutes to assist them in reconnecting. I would also like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being broadcast live to the internet. The whole of the meeting will be recorded, except for when there are confidential exempt items. To vote on matters, I will ask the Democratic Services Manager, Mr. John Hook, to arrange to manage this process. At this point, members will be requested to unmute your microphones. After a brief pause, a mover and a seconder will be requested. A roll call of members will be undertaken. Please reply with I vote, for, against, abstain, then remute your mic. That's a formalities over. Let's proceed with today's business. Just before we go on to the council business today, can I ask members that we have 1 minute silence on this day reflection? And it also coincides with the passing of a former leader of this council, Councillor Jack Mellin. So with you members, a minute silence, please. Thank you. First item in the agenda is apologies for absence. So I'll hand over to the Democratic Services Manager to do a roll call of members and officers present at this meeting. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors Oswald?
Present.
Barlow? Councillor Barlow?
Present.
I've got apologies from Councillor Biggins. Councillor Buzzard?
Present.
Councillor Brook?
Present.
Councillor Burley?
Present.
Councillor Burns?
Present.
Councillor Colster?
Present.
Cassidy?
Present.
Councillor Edwards?
Present.
T. Councillor Edwards H.
Present.
Councillor Gorn?
Present.
Councillor Hall?
Present.
Councillor Hamilton?
Present.
Councillor Husband?
Present.
Councillor Johnston?
Present.
Councillor McClure?
Present.
Councillor McEwen?
Present.
Councillor McLeavy?
Present.
Councillor Maddox?
Present.
Councillor Mooney?
Present.
Councillor Morgan?
Present.
Councillor Knott?
Present.
Councillor Pemberton?
Present.
Councillor Preston?
Present.
Councillor Roberts?
Present.
Councillor Robson?
Present.
Councillor Ronson?
Present.
Councillor Seward?
Present.
Councillor Shirley?
Present.
Councillor Thompson? A.
Present.
Councillor Thompson C.
Present.
Councillor Wall?
Present.
Councillor Worthington?
Present.
Chief Executive?
Present.
Director of Resources?
Present.
Director of People and Place,
Present.
Head of Legal and Democratic Services,
Present.
Paula Westwood, Democratic Services.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
Thanks, John. Agenda item number 2, urgent items. There are no urgent items for tonight's meeting. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest and dispensations. Does any member have any interest or dispensations to declare? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to declare that I'm a member of Cumbria County Council, which is being discussed at agenda item 7 on local government reorganisation. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest for the same reasons as Councillor Burns, because I too serve on Cumbria County Council.
Thanks, Frank. Councillor Wall.
Yeah, Cumbria County Council.
Councillor Shirley.
Cumbria County Councillor for Dalton North, Chair.
Thanks, Ben. Councillor Gorn.
Same again, Cumbria County Council.
Thanks, Derek. Bill.
Same, County Councillor.
Thank you. Can I also declare the same interest, John, as well, please? Any further declarations?
Me as well, Mr. Mayor, for County Council.
Yeah, can you put your hand up, Roy, so I can actually see? On the Zoom facility, makes it, honestly, makes it easier. Thanks, Roy. Agenda item 4, minutes. Do you agree that the minutes of the council proceedings held on the 25th of February 2021 as printed be approved as a correct record?
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed. The minutes of the meeting will be signed at the next practical opportunity. Thank you. Agenda item 5, announcements. Are there any announcements from the chairman, leader or head of paid services? No, thank you. Agenda item 6, public participation. No requests to ask a question, make representations or present a deputation or petition at the meeting.
Sorry, Chair. Could I just ask some advice? I would like to ask the leader to make an announcement. I can't find anywhere on the minutes to do that, and I think it needs doing up front. So could I ask the leader if she would like to make an announcement on an issue that is circulating in Barrow? Can I do that?
It's too late to stop you now, one.
Thank you. But I just think we've all become aware that rumours circulating on social media about the proposed the closure of Peel Island, and I think it needs dispelling here because it's getting to a silly issue that is circulating all over. There's petitions being started, and absolutely no way has this council said anything about Peel Island, and I think all of us would want to say that, you know, that is a jewel in the crown of Barrow, and we wouldn't like to do that. So could I ask the leader if she would make an announcement, please?
Leader of the council, please.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sam. Well, it's been quite hectic today with petitions and people phoning up and everything else, but we did put a press release out this afternoon, and we did send a briefing note to all members. Steph did. Thank you very much, Steph. But the lessees of the pub on Peel Island voluntarily have handed in their lease. They no longer want to be on the island. Officers have been over today to check it, to check the pub and everything, and I think we've got some work to do in it before it can reopen. We are trying to, we're going to find somebody to open it temporarily for the summer, because in our long-term plans, in our low carbon Barrow bid, we have got plans in there to turn that into an eco island where it's absolutely carbon neutral and will be a wonderful tourist attraction, even more so than it is now. So I think whoever's set up these petitions might have seen the lessees leaving the island and thinking, oh my God, the pub's going to be boarded up. you know, so I've no idea. I've no idea. I don't think anybody's spoken to them. But I can assure you that Peel Island is very much in our plans for the future. In fact, it's going to be a big part of our future. We're hoping it'll make our stamp on the whole of the country by becoming an eco island. And I think no way at all, and people must be reassured that there's no way at all that island's going anywhere out of the ownership of Barrow Borough Council. It's there for us to preserve, it's there for us to look after, and we will continue to do that until we sort out the long-term plans. Then we'll continue to own it, even though there'll be somebody in the pub as the king or queen of Peel. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Leader, and I hope that reassures the people. Thank you.
Well,
Agenda item 7, local government reorganisation consultation response. I call upon the leader of the council, Councillor Anne Thompson, please.
oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to the decision on the 9th of December 2020, along with South Lakeland District and Lancaster City Councils, to submit a full proposal for a Bay Area Unitary Authority. This report updates members on the consultation process. Endorsement of the principles of the Council's response will enable responses to be submitted by the 19th of April 2021. I move that the Council, 1, receive the update on the consultation process following submission of the Bay Unitary proposal. 2, endorse the approach of the Council to the consultation responses as outlined in the report and Appendix 1. 3, endorse the approach to submitting additional commentary on the Bay and North Cumbria proposal as outlined in Agenda 2. And 4, authorise the Chief Executive, in consultation with the leader, to finalise the responses to the consultation for submission to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government by the 19th of April 2021 deadline. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lee. Any questions of the leader? No. Do we need a roll call, John?
No, if everybody's in agreement, Chair. So that's
Agreed? Everybody agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Agenda item 8, financial plans and strategies 2021-2022. I call upon the chair of the executive committee, Councillor Brooke.
Thanks, Chair. Agenda item 8, financial plans and strategies 21 to 22. This report sets out the medium-term financial plan for 2021 to 2025, the Treasury Management Strategy Statement for 2021-22, and the Capital Strategy for 2021-2025. Try reading that sometime. The revenue consequences of these plans and strategies are all incorporated in the budgets approved for 2021-2022. At its meeting on the 10th of March 2021, the Executive Committee considered the financial plans and strategies and recommended Council for approval. I move that Council approve the medium-term financial plan for 2021-2025. 2, approve the Treasury Management Strategy Statement 2021-2022. 3, set the authorised limit for borrowing at £55.7 million for 2021-2022. And 4, approve the capital strategy and the capital programme for 2021-2025. Oh,
thanks, Derek.
much easier in the 1980s. All these 2020s and stuff.
All right. So do I have a seconder?
I'll second it and reserve the right to speak, please.
Thanks, Lee. Any questions, comments, amendment to the recommendation? Doesn't seem so. Do you want to say something, Lee, before we leave it?
Just very quickly, I think we say it every time, but we mean it every time, that in normal times it's finance teams, particularly, to do a phenomenal job. But after the year we've had and all the complications with the pandemic and all the additional things from the funding and the bids and everything, and she's had to deal with a whole lot of different issues coming out from all directions. So the team as well, so just congratulations on all the hard work and dedication. That's all. Thank you.
I'm sure everybody agrees. Thanks, Lee. Does everybody agree?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Agenda item 9, anti-fraud and corruption strategy and whistleblowing policy. I call upon the chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, Councillor Burns.
Thanks, Chair, and I will move agenda item 9. For the anti-fraud and corruption strategy and whistleblowing policy form part of the Council's policy framework. These policies have been reviewed and updated to ensure that they remain relevant and current to reflect best practice. I move that the Council approve the revised anti-fraud and corruption strategy and whistleblowing policy as attached to this report. So move, Chair.
Thanks, Anne. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Trees. Any comments, amendments? Do we take it as agreed?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 10, review of standard arrangements. I call upon the chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. The Council has been operated under the existing standard arrangements since 2012. Complaints concerning members' conduct are considered under the delegated powers of the monitoring officer. At the date of writing the report, there have been no recent formal investigations, which has necessitated a member's hearing. It's appropriate for the Council's standards arrangements to be reviewed on a regular basis, and the arrangements have been considered in light of best practice recommendations arising from the Committee for Standards in Public Life review of ethical standards of January 2019. So I move that the Council adopts the standard arrangements, including formalisation arrangements for hearings subcommittees as detailed within the arrangements. And I will so move that policy, Chair.
Well done. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Therese. Any questions, comments, amendments? Do we take it as agreed?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 11, annual council meetings 2021, dates and times of council and committee meetings in 2021-22. I call upon the wonderful leader of the council, Councillor Anne Thompson.
Ooh, pressing the wrong button. Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right, I've got a lot to read here, so you'll have to bear with me. Agenda item 11. The annual council meeting is generally held in May on a date and at a time fixed by the council. Last year, the AGM was cancelled as a result of the COVID pandemic, and appointments were continued for a further year. The AGM for 2021 was scheduled for the 18th of May. At the present time, however, due to circumstances and the continuing COVID pandemic, it is proposed that the meeting be brought forward to April 2021. This decision has regard to the current legislation around virtual meetings, which is due to expire on the 7th of May 2021. And at present time, the future direction of council meetings is unclear due to the uncertainty as to whether virtual and/or hybrid meetings may be permitted after that date. Since the council does not have scheduled elections this year, then the council could hold it in April, and a date of the 21st of April 2021 is suggested for this. Whilst the Constitution states that the annual meeting will take place in May on a date and a time fixed by the council, the legislation permits this to be in March, April or May, if no ordinary elections. It is therefore proposed that an amendment be made to the reference to the timing of the AGM within the Constitution, so that it reads, in a year when there is an ordinary election of councillors, the annual meeting will take place within 21 days of the retirement of the outgoing councillors. In any other year, the annual meeting will take place in March, April or May. Officers are currently exploring options around returning to physical meetings, but due to the uncertainty around the guidance and legislation arrangements have not been able to be firmed up. While meetings other than full council will be easy to accommodate in terms of any social distancing requirements, if hybrid meetings are to be considered, then there are a number of technical issues that would need to be taken account of and time needed for this. Once it is clear what the government's direction of travel is around meetings, I've said that wrong. I move that Council 1, note the current position and agree that the AGM be brought forward for 2021. 2, that the Constitution is revised as set out in paragraph 3 of the report. And 3, agree the draft programme of ordinary meetings of the Council for the year, a copy of which is attached in Appendix 1 of the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Anne. Well done. Councillor Hall.
Is there
The
a
only thing
second,
I wanted
Chair?
to sorry, the only thing I wanted to
Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, is there a second there?
I was going
I'll
to ask Councillor Hall if he's got a second it.
I will do when something's clarified. Although there's no election this year, Leader, there is two by-elections in Barrow and the PCC election. Does this not fall foul of the old Purdle before an election? That's the question I wanted to ask.
I'm sure, thank you, Councillor Hall. I am sure our monitoring officer will give me a reply to that.
Thank you.
Debbie.
Yes, no, it's scheduled meetings and the business of the council continues as normal. And I think if you look around the county, there are other councils in particular. I think the county council are looking to schedule their AGM in April as well. So it's fine. It's just the scheduled elections. If it was a scheduled election year, it would not be able to take place, but that's not this year.
Right, okay.
Thanks, Debbie.
Now I'd like to say.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. There's no further questions. Agreed?
I agree, Chair.
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 12, annual review of the Constitution. I call upon the Chair of the Executive Committee, Councillor Brooke.
Here's another exciting one. Right, so minor tweaks have been suggested to the officer and proper officer delegations as attached as Appendix 1. These are primarily to tidy up existing delegations and to ensure they're up to date. Additionally, if council adopts new standards arrangements as being recommended by governance to match, then the amendment shown to the terms of reference of the Audit and Governance Committee will be made to reflect provisions made for a hearings panel, Appendix 2. The financial regulations and contract procedure rules have also been considered to ensure they're up to date. Suggested changes to these are shown in Appendix 3. These will be further reviewed during the year. The council procedure rules at 2.1 make reference to the local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus, flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales Regulations 2020, which make provisions for remote attendance at and remote access to council meetings. It's proposed that the third paragraph is updated as shown below to reflect the additional legislative provision may be made with regard to virtual meetings. The procedure rules in these rules and virtual meeting rules and protocol take precedence over council standing orders in relation to the governance of remote meetings and will continue beyond the 7th of May should subsequent legislation permit. Right. The provisions will be kept under review and will be considered further when the position becomes clear in the light of any new legislative provisions. An earlier report on this agenda, well, the one that we've just had on the timing of the AGM, has suggested amending the wording of the council procedure rules with regard to holding of the AGM, which will also be incorporated into the Constitution if approved, which it just was. So I move that the council note the annual review of the Constitution, to approve the update to the council procedures rules as detailed in paragraph 3.5, approve the revisions to the proper officer appointments and officer scheme of delegations as detailed in Appendix 1, Note that the terms of reference of the Audit and Governance Committee will be updated as shown in Appendix 2. And 5, approve the revisions to the financial regulations and contract standing orders as attached at Appendix. Number missing off my thing. Right, I hope you all got that.
Well, you're not going through it again.
Nah.
Thanks, Derek. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lee. No comments, questions, or amendments? Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Agenda item 13A1, report of the Planning Committee. I call upon the Chair of the Planning Committee, Councillor Anne Thompson, please.
That's snuck up on me, Chair. I move that the report of the meetings of the Planning Committee held on the 16th of February and 16th of March 2021 be received. There are no recommendations referred to Council. The matters determined by the committee were all in exercise of its delegated powers, and I will take questions on those matters. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Sam. Any questions to the Chairman of the Planning? Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 13A2, report of the Executive Committee. I call upon the Chairman of the Executive Committee, Councillor Brook, if he's got his breath back.
Well, I have got my breath back, but I haven't got a thing that tells me what I've got to say now because it's not on my thing. So I'm trying to find it on the council, wherever it is on here.
Do you agree that the report of the Executive Committee be received?
Yes. Do you?
You say it.
Yeah. Do you agree that the report from the executive be received? Because I can't find my notes.
Any questions of the Chairman of the Executive?
Oh no, you dare, Ben.
Surely, there's always got to be one.
I'll have to go and find him now.
Ben?
With apologies, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to compound Councillor Brooks' tensions by asking 2 questions, if you'll indulge me, Mr. Mayor, concerning page 322, minute 94 of Executive on the 10th of February and page 324, minute 98 of the same meeting, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered if the Chairman could please provide Council with a breakdown of expenditure of the £50,000 National Lottery grant awarded for this project. Furthermore, can the Chair also provide a breakdown by electoral ward and the level of public engagement from across our borough? And question 2 is concerning the Heritage Action Zone project for Duke Street in Barrow, Mr. Mayor. What physical improvements does the Chair expect Barrovians to be able to see and touch, notwithstanding art projects already identified?
Thanks, Councillor Shirley. Have you found anything, Derek?
No. No. I'll have to get you a written reply to those, Ben.
Is that all right, Ben?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how to lower. Oh, there we are. Thank you.
Do you agree that the reports be approved?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 13A3, report of the Audit and Governance Committee. I call upon the Chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee, Councillor Anne Burns, please. You're on mute, Anne.
Always has to be one, doesn't there? Be one. I move that the report of the meetings of the Audit and Governance Committee held on the 3rd of March and the 18th of March 2021 be received, and that each of the recommendations contained therein have been dealt with under agenda items 8 and 10. And I so move, Chair.
Thanks, Anne. Any questions of the Chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee? No? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 13B, questions to the leader. One question has been submitted to the Leader of the Council under notice is required by Standing Order 10.2 and 10.4. Please, could Councillor Hall read out his question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the Leader of the Council agree with me that our beautiful park is being tainted by the increasing antisocial and violent behaviour of some youths? There have also been several instances of dogs off the lead attacking other dogs, leading to serious injuries, and residents are complaining of witnessing drug dealing. Some residents told me they no longer feel safe visiting what should be a fantastic place. So can the council prevail upon the police to increase their patrols within the park and also to investigate whether there are grants available to install CCTV?
Thanks, Liz. Would you like to reply, Anne?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Right, actually, Les, you sent this letter into this question into the town hall, and 2 days before, we'd sent a press release out saying that our street care were going to patrol the park more often.
Yeah.
So we were already on top of it before you sent your email in. I can understand people being worried, but the patrols are more often. The police are going to base somebody in the pavilion, which is mainly where I assume the drug dealing was going on. And I think that dogs should follow the bylaws, and dogs should be kept on leads. You know, because a few antisocial people who won't keep the dogs on leads spoil it for everybody else. And our park's a beautiful place. It's, you know, it's an absolute gem in the area that it's in, because it's a highly condensed living area. And I think we should all be proud of the park, and we will do everything we can to assure that it's a safe and place for people to go. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Councillor McLeavy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Minutes of the Council and Committees, Volume 5, Exec Committee, 10th of Feb, page 322, Section 96, Flexible Working Policy. Could I ask the Leader for indulgence in this? There's a few questions within it. I think it's very important, but I will get through it as quickly as possible. Are you happy to take that, Anne?
Yeah, I don't mind, but don't forget I'm not on exec, so I only have fleeting knowledge of these papers.
Okay, thank you anyway.
Until I have time, one weekend a month, to go through them all and read them with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay, thanks, Madam Leader. Whilst I fully support flexible working, I do have a number of concerns in regard to health, safety and well-being of our staff and our elected members. Councillors Shirley, Mooney and Blezard have all spoken about health and safety and well-being recently, so to continue that topic, we have all been impacted by the events outside of our control because of COVID, and the need to work from home where possible is a must for us to continue our duties. However, from a health and well-being perspective, I must point out that home working without full workstation assessment is concerning and potentially aids a further pandemic of musculoskeletal disorder, RSI, and strained eyesight, amongst other numerous health issues, potentially resulting in workplace injury. And I know it's difficult at the moment, but could I ask what health and safety precautions have been issued to staff, including members? What process has been passed to home workers to ensure their well-being is satisfied? Have correct chairs been provided with the standard 5 casters, full control, up, down, side to side, etc.? Are workstations or laptops at correct heights? And what about the 10-minute rest periods every hour? We have a duty of care and must ensure we conform to the Health and Safety at Work Act, which has recently been updated because of COVID. A phone call and a few questions on health and safety and well-being cannot possibly be classed as adequate. I understand that health and safety is everyone's responsibility, but we must first have the correct support and information. May I suggest that going forward, if staff wish to work flexibly from home after COVID, that at source health and safety is physically assessed, the correct equipment provided, and any policy or process be updated to reflect this. And secondly, Madam Leader, Democratic Services Manager recently sent out a document in regard to protocol during Zoom meetings and that councillors must keep their screens on. To this, I would say, I turn my screen off sometimes because A, I need to get up and move around. My eyes get dry and sore. And C, I have an increasing amount of headaches looking at a screen so much. So whilst it's nice to have process protocols for Zoom, they can be counterproductive for one's health. Could I ask that the protocol document be updated to reflect this? Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Anne?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Right, thanks, Martin, for that. We take the health and safety of our staff and members very seriously. But to be honest with you, your questions are really specific. So I think I will have to get a written answers to your actual questions. I've written them down, and I'm sure Paula's written them down so that I can get Sam or Steph to give you a written answer precisely on that. If I was to give you an answer to that now, I'd be making it up off the top of my head, and that's not good enough. So you need to get the proper answer. I think homeworking, homeworking isn't ideal. I get headaches, and I've only had one cataract done, so my eyes are lopsided anyway. So I end up with real headaches and dry eyes. And I don't think it's good enough for anybody at the moment. I think it came upon us with such speed, and then everything else came upon us that we've got to take time to reevaluate. But if home working is going to become the norm for some members of staff, I think we need to take that evaluation forward and do it. On the protocol for Zoom meetings, I've got a habit of turning my picture off if I need to take a comfort break or deal with my grandson as he's running around the house. But I think John could amend the protocol, because I know when you're watching YouTube, because I watched the exec this afternoon, nobody but the speaker, you can see through the whole meeting. You never get, on the Zoom meetings, you never get a whole picture of everybody that's in the meeting. All you do is it flashes up the person who's saying present or the person who's speaking. So I think we could have a look at that and try and do that. But I can assure you, you'll get a written reply, because health and safety is of paramount concern to all of us.
I fully appreciate that, Anne, and I will write those questions out and send them to Paula and yourself.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Sam. Councillor Daniel Edwards, please.
Yep. My question is related to the minutes of the exec committee on the 10th of February, page 322, minute 94, Barrow's new constellation. Would the leader set up a working group of councillors to analyse and assess the work of the new constellation? Bearing in mind, it was only a group of 14 people from a population of nearly 60,000.
Thanks, Daniel. Anne?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Daniel. I've got no problem with a working group at all. A working group of councillors to look through this. I myself did not really know much about it. So, I'm one of those who didn't know a lot about it. And I think, I know we had a presentation about it, but I think a working group would be all right, because we could delve deeper into what it actually means. So I'm quite happy for Steph or Sam to set up a small working group just to go through that. We've got working groups for absolutely everything under the sun, and I don't know how that slipped past the net, not having a working group in the first place for that one, to be honest with you, Daniel.
That's great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leader. Councillor Shirley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leader, my question concerns page 346 from the minute book, minute 117, exec 10th of February. And Leader, at a recent member briefing concerning the bid, you appeared to make your feelings quite clear concerning the bid. And with that in mind, I wondered if you intended to consult with all councillors so that you can canvass our views as elected members about the bid ahead of casting the 25 votes which the council has.
Thanks, Ben. Anne?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, I have certain reservations about the bid, and I've made them quite plain from the beginning, which was 4 years ago. So I still have. I will be consulting members on what they think before we cast our vote. And I will be doing extensive work on their actual document, because I have actually still got a copy of their document from 4 years ago. So I will be reviewing that to make sure that all they said they did, all they promised they did, and they actually did it. And have a look at what they've said in their presentation and what they've said in their new document to prove that or to disabuse it. And then I will probably write a report to all councillors so they can make their minds up themselves and let me know. And then Steph and I obviously will make the decision at the end of the day. I firmly believe there is a decision the traders themselves should make. I'm not, you know, we've got 24, 25 votes, you know, and that could swing it either way, because last time there was only a small proportion voted. And I wonder whether actually this is a thing for the town centre traders, and if they want it, they should have it. But if they want it, they've got to vote for it. And I think the best thing to do, actually, in one respect, would be to let the town centre traders actually have that vote, and us not interfere. But as I say, I will be guided by what the council says. But I think people should bear in mind that it's up to the traders whether they want it, because they pay the levy, and they've got far less resources than we have to pay that levy. So and a lot of them, we don't know how many is going to reopen after COVID, you know. And I think it's really a very difficult time for businesses, and I don't know whether they'll want to take on this extra levy. But at the end of the day, I think it's up to them. But I will take advice from the councillors before Steph and I make that decision.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Ben. Councillor McEwen has been held in purgatory. Go on, son. You're on mute, Bill.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. It's not a question to the leader. It's just in response to Councillor Hall's question regarding CCTV and the park.
I thought about that bit.
As I am the chair of the Police and Crime Panel, I did ask a request to the Commissioner for CCTV in the park, because there was an incident that happened a couple of months ago, and he has got funding for CCTV, and he is going to see CCTV goes in the park. So it will be happening, Councillor Hall. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Bill, which is good news all round. Councillor Callister, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a comment and question coming on the back of Councillor McCleavey, and I think every member can probably or will agree in what Councillor McCleavey has said about health and safety for our staff. I'd like to take it one step further and throw something into the lap of the leader by saying, can we look at the earliest opportunity in a safe manner to reintroduce staff as soon as possible, and again in a safe manner back into their office residence in the town hall. I think it's important for staff mental health that we move forward as quickly on this as possible. Given the space that we have in the town hall, I personally believe we can accommodate a number of staff, and that will certainly alleviate any problems that staff may well be feeling working from home. It's 12 months now, and I think efforts should be directed towards looking after staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Tony. Anne?
Yeah, well, I'm sure our staff will be coming back, but don't forget the message is still stay at home if you can work at home at the moment till the end of the month or something in April. So I'm sure Sam will inform you even more, because she'll obviously know what plans are afoot to get the staff back in town, but back into the town hall. And I think they will be coming back very shortly, but I'll pass you over to Sam.
Chief Executive.
The message in the government's roadmap is for stay at home and work from home if you can work from home until at least the 21st of June. So we're working as a management team to put that roadmap in place to make sure that when staff do come back, they do that in a COVID compliant and safe way. But it's not going to be for a couple of months yet. As restrictions start to ease and as the town centre starts to reopen from the 12th of April, we will be working in a slightly different way, and more staff are likely to be coming into the town hall to carry on duties than they have been doing since before Christmas. But full reopening won't happen until the 21st of June at the earliest.
Thanks,
Thank
Sam.
you. Oh, sorry, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Burns.
Oh. Thank you, Chair. I just would like to ask the leader if she agrees with me in response to Councillor Hall's contribution today about children and antisocial behaviour that is happening in Barrow, and it is happening in Barrow in different areas. Would she agree with me that at the moment we're trying to put partnership together, local resilience group and the children and families group, in working with the police, who the police have put out some child centre policing teams, and they're working with Drop Zone, they're working with the groups that we've got that are on the resilience groups, with different residents groups. We're actually working with the Well. We're working absolutely in partnership to try and address some of the issues. You cannot keep just chasing kids around the town and expecting them just to do what you're expecting them to do. They're teenagers, and this is nothing new. It's been happening when you were teenagers. Probably you can't remember it, but it did happen that young people gathered together and things happen. What is worse today is the very difficult situation that young people find themselves in. We don't have facilities anymore like we used to have years ago. We don't have youth clubs anymore. That's all been cut from the budget. And I'm sure she would agree with me, the leader, when she knows the amount of money that we've lost in facilities that we had when we were trying to look after young people. We're trying to encourage them into sports club and everything else. I think we've got to try and think ourselves about what we can put in place to help young people, steer them down a different path to the path they're going down with the drugs and the gangs and things like that. We've got to work with these groups, and we've got to work together. And you know, the police are out there on doing stuff, and I think we've got to join with them to try and talk to young people about the way forward. We cannot just keep beating them over the head with a big stick. We've got to do something to help them out of this situation. And I think that is the way forward in the partnership approach and in talking to young people. If not, we're going to be going down this route with nothing happening, with nothing getting better for ever and a day. And we're not going to have that. We're going to try and work to make sure young people are talked to and get the best that we can give them. I'm hoping that Councillor Thompson agrees with that.
Just before I bring the leader of the council in, can I know I've been relaxed. Hopefully it's my last meeting as a chairman, so whatever. But if it's this part, you've got to state the page number, the minutes, and whatever. So, Councillor Ronson.
Thank you, Chairman. Unfortunately, I don't have a minute number, but I wanted to follow on from what some of the other councillors have been talking about in regards to the CCTV at Barrow Park. Unfortunately, Dalton doesn't have a park, but it has just the same issues as the rest of the district. We do have antisocial behaviour and even drug dealing issues in Dalton, and that does tend to take place at the leisure centre and on the playground there. We have been asking for CCTV. We do now finally have a dedicated police officer that's going to join the ward in the near future. But I'd like to ask whether or not the chair feels that Barrow's Park is more demanding than Dalton's leisure centre for CCTV.
Just before I ask the leader, say that is an unfair question. How can she make that? She's a leader of the council and all Barrovians, so it makes no difference. If you want to score political points and whatever, and so I'm bringing in the next one, needs a minute, the page and whatever, because that, just thinking about CCTV, Ben is on the borderlands, so you can make a request in the borderlands, and it's up to the community. The community of Dalton will make that decision on about the funding, where the funding goes. So that's where the relevant place is. And so, are you ready, Anne, to answer? And
yeah.
You're not.
Well, yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Well, Councillor Rodson is only a new councillor because he asked a question that no leader would ever answer. You know, no leader is going to say Barrow Park is above Dalton or Dalton Park's above Barrow Park. You know, nobody in the right, no councillor would even do that. It's absolutely a ridiculous question, and I'm sorry about that, because that, you know, Sam, you normally ask sensible questions, but that is not a sensible one. As far as I know, the Borderlands have talked about CCTV, And if it is within my remit, Mr. Mayor, can I bring Councillor Knott in here? Because I think he might have something to say on this. Do you have something to say, Steve?
No, I think it's Councillor Blizzard and that's on the Borderlands from our side. We have achieved, if you were maybe thinking that we've got, we have managed to achieve CCTV for cameras for Dalton Railway Station, which have started going up this week, which is a real positive for the town.
Can I just say, Anna, there's a meeting, we've got a meeting with the community partnership to see what they've come up with on about the Borderlands. I actually chair the Borderlands. So that meeting's going ahead. They will see what's happening, and we want to include, as Ben knows, everybody, and Sean, everybody, including Steve, to see what the community needs in Dalton in Furness.
Chair, we do need a minute number and page number, please. We are going away from the
yeah, no. They've been warned, and that was the last one, John. I've been overindulgent. My last meeting, so you take me outside and shoot me or whatever. Is that it for the questions to the leader? Well done, Anne. Well done.
Can I just say, Mr. Mayor, that I just didn't answer Councillor Burns, but I do agree with her. The problem is, I spoke to the Police and Crime Commissioner a couple of weeks ago on a meeting I was on with him. And he's as worried about the young gangs that are roaming around, and it's unusual circumstances now. A lot of them aren't at school. I know they've gone back now, but still some haven't gone back, you know, because the parents don't want them to go back. But kids don't want what we wanted. They don't want a youth club or you know, they want some space, you know, where they can call their own, that they can do what they want with computers and Xboxes and PS5s and games and, you know, and a far better, skateboard park. You know, that's always been, every time we've done a survey of what kids want, they always want a bigger skateboard park. So I think we need to come up with a youth policy. I know we've got a very, very good youth officer youth lead member in Bev, and I'm not Beverly, Councillor Morgan, and I know she's working tirelessly with their youth groups to see what we can come up with, you know. And I think in the future, I think hopefully we will tie things together and get that. But I do agree with you. We need to do something, because the next stabbing could be a fatal one, and it worries me. It keeps me awake at night.
Thanks, Sam. Well done. So, going on to agenda item 14, notice of motion under Rule 11. I call upon Councillor Callister. Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's notice of motion under Rule 11 to consider the following motion, which has been moved by myself and will be seconded by Councillor Preston. It's the NJC pay, a fully funded proper pay rise for council and school workers. Now, the opening sentence, I must warn you, is quite difficult to understand. It's quite upsetting. Now, local government has endured central government funding cuts of more than 50% since 2010. Between 2010 and 2020, councils lost 60 pence out of every pound they have received from central government. Over the last year, councils have led the way in efforts against the COVID-19 pandemic, providing a huge range of services and support for our communities. Local government has shown more than ever how indispensable it is. But the pandemic has led to a massive increase in expenditure and loss of income, and the government has failed to provide the full amount of promised support. Local government workers have kept our communities safe through the pandemic, often putting themselves at considerable risk as they work to protect public health, provide quality housing, ensure our children continue to be educated, and look after older and vulnerable people. Since 2010, the local government workforce has endured years of pay restraint, with the majority of pay points losing at least 23% of their value since 2009-2010. At the same time, workers have experienced ever-increasing workloads and persistent job insecurity. Across the UK, 900,000 jobs have been lost in local government since June 2010, a reduction of more than 30%. Local government has arguably been hit by more severe job losses than any other part of the public sector. The funding gap caused by COVID-19 will make local government employment even more precarious. There has been a disproportionate impact on women, with women making up more than 3/4 of local government workforce. Recent research shows that if the government were to fully fund the union's 2021 pay claim, around half the money would be recouped thanks to increased tax revenue, reduced expenditure on benefits, and increased consumer spending in the local economy. Now, this council believes our workers are public service superheroes. They keep our communities clean and safe, look after those in need, and keep our towns and cities running. Without the professionalism and dedication of our staff, the council services our residents rely on would not be deliverable. Local government workers deserve a proper, real terms pay increase. The government needs to take responsibility and fully fund this increase. It should not put the burden on local authorities whose funding has been cut to the bone, who have not been offered adequate support through the COVID-19 pandemic. This council resolves to support the pay claims submitted by GMB, Unison and Unite on behalf of council and school workers for a substantial increase with a minimum of 10% uplift in April 2021. Call on the Local Government Association to make urgent representations to central government to fund the NJC pay claim. Write to the Chancellor and Secretary of State to call for a pay increase for local government workers to be funded with new money from central government. Meet with local NJC union representatives to convey support for the pay claim and consider practical ways in which the council can support the campaign and encourage all local government workers to join a union. Now, I move that motion. Now, just to follow on from that, and words from the heart, now never mind the global recession. And one thing I don't want to do is wholly embarrass the story of wasteful use of public money on ill thought out and, got to watch me swearing here, expensive contracts during this pandemic. And just to preempt any comments coming back, this mysterious letter that was left by the Labour government claiming there is no money goes down as one of the biggest lies ever told. And any mention of the bridge across the bay is certainly for another committee. Now, this is about being, and I say this in capitals, good, honest, caring and emphatic human beings in supporting the call for fair remuneration for our council and social workers. Now, this vote or this support will be more than clear in what members think about their fantastic council and school workers. Now, 10%, people will be thinking 10%. Now, 10% of a lot is a lot. So 10% of an MP's salary is a lot of money. Now, 10% of not a lot, a council and school worker's salary is not a lot. Now, we are, and we will continue to be, one of the richest countries on the planet. Now, giving fair play is something that will never, ever break the bank. And to be a complete cynic at this point, the government will only grab the money back through needless tax rises. But I've got to say, and I'm going to finish off, anybody thinking, I'm all right, Jack, quite frankly, shouldn't be able to sleep at night. I move. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Tony. Ailey, you seconding the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll second that motion and I'll reserve my right to speak until the end.
Thank you. The motion is now open to debate. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I strongly support this motion, as does my trade union, Unison, who are co-organisers of the motion. Local government workers have truly been the backbone of our community during COVID, especially those in social care. We've got a government currently that is willing to throw 37 billion away on a failed test and trace system, which equals around 5.5 million per borough resident if you break it down like that. Yet in the next 12 months, the government are cutting 30.1 billion from health and social care budget, adding pressure to these workers. I just want to say that I'm fully in support of this motion. It's great to see another motion like this going through our council. It really does show that this is another great example of how we are a workers' council, and we're standing up for the workers of the borough and of this nation. So I fully approve.
Thanks, Ian. Any further questions before I ask? Lee?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, fully support the motion. A proper pay rise for council and school workers. It seems completely obvious when you think about the role they take in society and our communities. If we're concentrating on local councils on this motion, but school workers, I think, deserve a fair mention as well because of the pandemic. But we've seen our local councils have been a key to recovery from COVID. Going to be the key to recovery, and they've been front line at the response to it, helping our communities already blighted by poverty and deprivation, health inequalities as well, to be hit by a pandemic. So the council workers have been magnificent, and they've stepped up. And do you remember when there was a sudden recognition in the public or in maybe the media about who the real key workers were, where suddenly in the pandemic, key workers were people like teachers, teaching staff, and it wasn't the traditional people that thought of as key workers. It really turned around the perception of who people rely on in the community to look after them. As a council worker as well, I've always thought this, and I mean, I've been a chair of governors at a couple of schools, and it's the same applies to that, where people do that job not just for the salary. It's more than that. It means more than that, and you do it for other things on top of that. So for a teacher, teaching staff and teaching assistants and school staff, they love the job and they want to help life better for some families and children. So for council, it's about the community and the residents. And you can see, I've always thought a good school is a good school. As a building, it's the staff. You take away the staff, and that's it. You've got nothing. It's all about staff, and I think it's the same for the council. So the council is nothing without its staff, and we've got some great staff. We're lucky to have them. So to retain the staff, you have to pay them fairly, because if you've got a council who's passionate about what they do, we've got staff that are achieving great things, they could be lured elsewhere. You've got to attract and retain them. And sometimes I think, similar to teaching staff as well, where they are doing it for other reasons on top of working conditions and a good salary. I think sometimes you take it for granted because they're less likely to leave because they're passionate about their job. So we've got to recognise that and make sure they are rewarded for the performance and for their dedication. As I said before, we really are lucky to have them. So if we help try and persuade the government to provide better salaries for people in these sectors, it'll help attract more people to this who see it as a passion rather than maybe going off the road and just working for a salary. And don't forget, our council plan and going forward, which we featured in the exec, we've got a lot to do, and the council are leaders of place. So that applies to every office and every council member and all council staff. Climate mates, we are leading the way. We've got to have people who are passionate about this, and just to rely on the fact that they care about the area, not pay them as much as they deserve, I think it's just wholly wrong. So I think we need to recognise that we value our staff. We know they're doing a brilliant job, and it's not just for money, but they deserve to be rewarded. Otherwise, we'll lose them, and we won't attract the type of people we want with the same mindset and the same passion, dedication. So I'm fully 100% behind this motion. I'm glad it was brought here by Councillor Callister and supported by Councillor Preston. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Councillor Pemberton and Councillor Shirley, then Councillor Burns. Alan?
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Callister should have gone on the stage. I think he would have made a lot more money. Anyway, for years, there have been 32 job vacancies, which I was told today were not needed, but had been included in the staff pay budget and were not needed now. This should have made hundreds of thousands available for the council to use and enabled the council to produce a balanced budget over the years. It's happened after every Labour government, and I wasn't going to mention the letter since Tony has put it in. The fact is, I mean, he says it was lies, but the letter was actually there. It was written by a Labour Secretary of State, and it did actually say there's no money left. So I don't know where to get the lying bit about it. But anyway, the council, after every Labour government, the economy we inherited was in tatters. And our credit rating was in danger of being downgraded, which at the time would have meant paying millions in interest. Of course, everybody is full of admiration for the work done by the NHS and all the school teachers and staffs. I am sure they will be rewarded when we overcome this terrible virus, which the economy has left the economy poorer, and until the economy recovers, we will not be able to do. The National Health Service staff have had 12% increases in recent years, which is a guide to how much they are appreciated. And I am sure they will agree that there are thousands of people who have lost their jobs altogether, are in a far worse position than they are. And I hope they will. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Alan. Councillor Shirley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I've known Councillor Callister for many years, and I know that this motion comes from a good place. And Mr. Mayor, while I fully understand our colleagues' desire to see a pay rise, workers in the private sector are losing their jobs, being furloughed, and seeing wages cut. The Chancellor of the Exchequer said it would be difficult to justify continued pay increases across the whole of the public sector, but the government is increasing pay for many public sector workers. This includes over 1 million nurses, doctors, and other NHS staff, with the pay deal that was agreed in 2018, which the unions agreed. They agreed it. Around 2.1 million public sector workers who earn below the average wage of 24,000 will also be guaranteed a pay rise of at least £250. And in terms of teachers, they've been real unsung heroes throughout this pandemic. And they've helped to keep our economy going and our children in a safe place. And they've helped those who have been homeschooling to deliver home education. And speaking on behalf of the school that my own son goes to, it's been absolutely superb. And we thank them for that. And teachers have had a huge impact on children's futures. And we all want our children to be taught by the brightest and best. And we've got to attract the best candidates to teach in our schools. And the action that's been taken on teachers' pay to ensure that teaching remains an attractive career choice is there for all to see. The Education Secretary has accepted the recent recommendations of the School Teachers Review Body, or the STRB, which have increased starting salaries by 5.5% from September 2020. These are substantial increases to teachers' starting pay, and totally justified and not before time, to help ensure that teaching is rightly regarded as a well-rewarded and prestigious profession, attracting the most able graduates and career changers into teaching to support improved outcomes for children, so that no child is left behind and everybody has the best possible start in life. And overall, the STRB recommended pay award, the largest since 2005, no less, is actually equivalent to a 3.1% increase in the teacher's pay bill. It provides a substantial above-inflation pay rise, Mr. Mayor, to the pay ranges for all teachers. I'm confident that represents a decisive step towards a pay structure that better supports teacher retention and helps to recognise the extraordinary efforts of our teachers and leaders. And these increases to teachers' pay are made possible by, the 3-year schools funding settlement which will see an extra 14 billion in total going into our schools in the 3 years to 2022-23 compared to 19-20. For 2021, Mr. Mayor, schools have received an extra £2.6 billion. It is with regret that 10%, although if my heart were ruling my head, then yes, absolutely would support this motion. But when you consider the impact on the pandemic on workers from all sectors, it is with regret that I cannot support this motion tonight.
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Wow, follow that. And I think you're living in a bit of a fantasy world, Ben, if you think that public sector workers are being well rewarded, because that's not the case. You can do a lot with your figures. We understand what's going on here. The country's finances are in a mess, and they are in a mess at the moment. And I've got to say to you, you keep raising this fact that when Labour were in power, that was 11 years ago. We've had 2 Tory governments since then, and lots of budgets have been put before. They've been the richest government, had the most money that any government has ever had over the years. And they've actually done a lot with it for their own friends. They haven't done a lot for it with the own working classes. We know what's been going on, and it's well publicised now. The scrutiny that's on what's going on with PPA, the contracts that have been handed out to friends and family is absolutely disgraceful. And we've had all sorts of information even out this week. We've been hearing about an ex-Prime Minister getting public funds to support, trying to get the Chancellor of the Exchequer to support a private company in which he has a financial interest. This is the way that things operate in this country now. If you know somebody and you're well in, then you get a contract handed down with billions of pounds attached to it, and that's what's happening, and that's the reality of what's happening now. And we all support our workers, and if it was a fair system, then we would be supporting workers right across the board with pay increases, and we wouldn't have to run around trying to put resolutions like this to councils. And the other thing that we've heard this week, I mean, we're supposed to be an area that is being levelled up. We're supposed to be levelled up, but we know that's not the case. We're not having a levelling up here in Barrow. This week, we've also heard about another grant that's come to us. You question this one, you should question this one, all of you together. The health grant has been announced this week. It's not surprising that to many of us, that Kensington and Chelsea has gone from £135.38 to £138 per person. And that's to keep in place with inflation. But in Cumbria, it's gone from £37.80 to £38.03. So when you take inflation into consideration, then it's actually a cut in the money that we get for public health. Now, that public health grant supports health inequalities and everything else that we've got to actually fetch our kids and our people up to a standard. Why is it that if we got the same money that they were getting in Kensington and Chelsea, we would have an extra £50 million coming into this county to support public health of our people? And that's not levelling up, and that's unfair. And that is what we're getting time after time after time. We get scraps off the table because they're giving the money to big business and their chums in high places. And I think you should all take a step back and actually think about the reality of what's going on in this country. It's despicable what's happening here. And we support this motion because our workers deserve to have the biggest rise we can give them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, and before I bring Councillor Thompson in, Les had his hand up before, and so did Steve. Have you both lowered him? Thank you.
Yeah, I have, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Councillor Thompson. You're on mute, Anne.
I think it's a worthy. It's a worthy. The recommendations on this motion are really good, and I think we should carry on with it and give it to as many places as we can, and let people know that this is what we have put through our council tonight. But on one thing, I would just like to say, I think we should move the vote on, Chair, simply because it's now 6:45, and our officers who were on the exec have been over a screen. Here's us talking about health and safety. The exec members and the staff members have been over that screen since 2 o'clock this afternoon. And I think that, you know, and I think they've only had maybe quarter of an hour break. And if we're going to take seriously what Councillor McCleavy wants and all this health and safety, I think we really need to consider bringing this to a close now, taking the vote and letting our officers have some rest.
Agreed.
Is the move of the motion, Tony? Do you agree?
I agree.
No. Sorry, no, I've raised my hand.
I'm sorry, Les, have you just listened to what the leader has said? Have you got anything to do about how maybe the officers are feeling? It's not about you, Les. It's always about you, Les.
No, Tony, you've had your half
that
hour.
We move on.
You've had more than your 2 pence. I'm not getting an argument. I'd rather follow protocol.
Well, the protocol is someone's asked to move the vote, and if the council agree to move the vote.
Chair, can I move that we have the vote moved now, please? And I'll move that. Somebody second me.
Second that.
Yeah,
move the vote. Second.
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Hall he did indicate to vote, and really he should be allowed to speak.
Well, someone's just moved the vote go forward. And just to listen to what people have been going on about, you can't be hypocrites on about staring and the council's actually right. We're looking at these computer screens and whatever. Some haven't had a rest and whatever. So I'm taking a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
That's good democracy.
Mr. Mayor, would it not be worth, Mr. Mayor, if I may, would it not be worth having a short adjournment for a comfort break to allow?
No, that's not acceptable.
No, not having that.
Councillor Hall has indicated, as the Democratic Service Manager has said, and it's unweighted. The administration members have had a lot to say, and to my knowledge, only 2 opposition members have spoken, Chair.
Well, that's quite good.
Despite Councillor Hall indicating.
Yeah, well, his hand went down before with Steve, and it's only come back up again.
To be fair, Mr. Mayor, it did go down, but then it did come up before that was raised by the leader of the council, so he should be allowed to speak.
Well, I never noticed that. If that's the case. Seeing it's my last meeting as chair, so I don't have to give apologies up next time. Les?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's only going to be a quick one. I need to declare an interest in this, as I believe several other members do, because my wife's a teacher. Basically, Councillor Callister's long speech, very laudable, but the fact is that it's really gesture politics. The council has no effect at all on what the government will actually do. The country is, following the pandemic, in a very bad financial state. And much as I would like a reasonable pay rise for council staff, I also think other staff, supermarket workers, etc. So I cannot support this motion at 10%. But as I said, I have declared an interest, and I believe there are other councillors who should also have declared an interest.
Yeah, you're right, Les. Yeah. So just before I bring the vote forward and whatever, some of the points there, like Ben was making out, I tell you what, I'd hate to be a resident of Barrow-in-Furness if we go in your office to ask about poor pay and whatever, to get told, well, you're not doing so bad, lad. Anyways,
Mr. Mayor,
you're quite happy with not speaking and just go ahead to a vote?
Can I just be really, really quick, Mayor? Because some of the things
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor.
No. Go on, Ailey.
You've addressed me personally and brought a private matter into this arena. I don't think that's appropriate, and we've you know, you're not like that. Why would you personally attack me like that, Mr. Mayor? That's uncalled for and should be withdrawn.
Well, it's just what you were saying before on about, oh, we're doing this, we're doing. I can remember it a couple of about 8 months ago, whatever it was, or whatever. Not forgetting, I'm not of this century. Where a certain person, I think it was called Boris Johnson, stood outside 10 Downing Street, clapping his hands, and what for the National Health Service. And what's he done this time? It's all subterfuge and mirrors and whatever. And I must apologise, Ben, if you think I've insulted you and whatever. I know we're from political different faiths and whatever, but the truth be known, the people, the workers and whatever are not getting fully funded or whatever, especially in the public sector. And they're there and they're working time and time. And they're particularly in the national health, where they're faced with the problems of COVID and whatever, and to get them, well, give them a round of applause and whatever. So I must apologise if I offended you. Ailey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I promise I'll be very, very quick. I just wanted to come back in on this. I will declare an interest because I am a member of school staff, and it is important not just to mention teachers. I'll just put that out there. It's important to mention school staff because for years we have had pay freezes, and last time we had a pay rise was 1%, which I think is totally unacceptable. However, I'm just going to finish off with the emphasis on the public service superheroes. We will have not survived the past year without our public service. Tonight we have officers with us who are sat, like you so rightly say, 2 meetings supporting us. We've had updates in IT services and just an absolutely phenomenal service from our own officers. And I think everybody in the public service deserves a pay rise. We're not going to get equality until we get a decent pay for women as well. I'll just mention that as well after last week's International Women's Day. So I just want to finish off with that public service workers have gone above and beyond the call of duty, and I call upon our members on this call to back this motion because I just feel that we need to support our workers a bit better. Thank you.
Thanks, Ailey. Well said. So I'm putting the motion to the vote.
Mr. Mayor, does the move of the motion not want to write a reply? I know I'm extending the meeting, but it does have that.
I know you're extending. I know we're extending the meeting, John, but I asked him if it was all right if we moved the vote, and Tony agreed with me.
Well, that's okay, as long as that's clarified.
Yeah.
Excuse me, could we make it a name vote, please?
Does the members agree with having a name vote?
I agree.
Agreed. Yeah.
Agreed. Thanks, Jay. Can you do a roll call, please, John?
Yes, well, Mr. Mayor, the motion has been moved by Councillor Callister and seconded by Councillor Preston. Please reply with for, against, or abstain. So, Councillors Oswald.
For.
Barlow.
For.
Blizzard.
For.
Brooke.
For.
Burley.
Against.
Burns.
For.
Callister.
At this point, I register an interest, and my interest is in being a good human being. For the motion.
Cassidy.
For.
Edwards D.
Against.
Edwards H.
Against.
Gorn.
Against.
Hall.
Against.
Hamilton.
For.
Husband.
For.
Johnston.
For.
McClure.
Against.
McEwen.
For.
McLeavy.
Abstain.
Maddox.
For.
Mooney.
For.
Morgan.
For.
Not. For. Pemberton.
Against.
Preston,
For.
Roberts,
For.
Robson,
For.
Ronson,
Against.
Seward,
For.
Shirley,
Against.
Thompson A,
For.
Thompson C, Councillor Colin Thompson,
For.
Wall,
For.
Worthington,
For.
that's carried. 24-4. So 4-23, 9 against, 1 abstention.
Thanks, John. So,
Can I just put in here, sorry, Mr Mayor,
you're permitted, Senior the Leader.
I would just like to thank you for being mayor for 2 years. I would like to, I know we'll do all this at the AGM, but it's your last council meeting and we normally, you know, have a little drinky poos and, you know, say all nice words to you. But I think you've coped magnificently in this pandemic, doing Zoom meetings. It hasn't been easy for any of us to get into this. And you've really showed your mettle, my love. You've showed your mettle, Kevin. You know, and I think you've chaired things wonderful, and I hope you'll enjoy your retirement from there and be able to come to meetings without the worry of having to chair them.
Oh.
But we'll see you at the AGM, my love.
Well said, Dad. Well said. Well done, Kevin.
So, with that, with being humble, thank you. So, the meeting is over. Can we switch off the light, please?